Hello guys and welcome back to episode 43 of our Sheffield United RTG career mode. We return today off the back of the season finale in the last episode where we lifted the FA Cup, defeating Spurs at Wembley to complete a domestic double. Heading into season 6 as we're going to kick off with our transfer window and the Community Shield today. Lots to crack on with, so let's just jump straight into it. So then guys, where do we start? We've got quite a full squad of 50 players at the moment, so we are going to have to look at who we are going to shift on. But the first thing to do is check our budget for the new season, which is coming in at 144 million. We've sort of slowly grown our budget season on season. It's probably not quite enough to bring in my two main transfer targets, so we are going to have to look to shift one or two players on. And again, this season, we've got a lot of players returning from loan and a lot of players with their deals up come the end of the season. So I think our first port of call is to work out who we're going to look to sell this summer and who we want to give new contracts to. So one of those players with their deal up is Harry Maguire, and as expected, he is retiring at the end of the season. And actually, rather annoyingly, we've got another player retiring at the end of the year, and that is Leandro Paredes. I was going to try and shift him on. He's now 34 years of age, but of course, we cannot sell him now as he is retiring. So Leandro will be staying with us for this final year. And you'll be seeing now on screen new contracts for Reece Matthews, Aliou Sonko, who of course is our going to be our backup keeper this year, Yorgos Dimitriou, Stefanos Samaras, Joaquin Pardo, Ewan Stone and Malik Diaby as well. So new contracts handed out and 7 players still with their deals up at the end of the year. 2 of those, Maguire and Paredes, are retiring. Gabriel and Harmer both sort of playing for new deals. I'm not too sure what's going to happen with them at the moment, so we're going to hold off on the new contracts. And the rest of them are all probably going to be shifted on. Neil Conlon, Darko and Zach Steffen, all likely to be sold in this summer transfer window. And now that the contracts are sorted, I'm just going to go through and list the players that we want to either get out on loan this season or are looking to shift on. So I'm going to go through and we'll take a look at our transfer list at the end. So our transfer budget's taken a little bit of a hit after those contracts, and you'll be seeing now the players that are listed for this upcoming season. No one that's going to bring in a huge amount of funds, but as I've discussed, I do expect one of our strikers, maybe João Pedro or Archer, to leave, and potentially some other big outgoings as well. Right, so what we're going to do is sim to the second day in the calendar, as that always sort of gets the ball rolling with players that you've already agreed deals for and any players joining the club. So as you can see, we actually agreed to loan deals at the back end of last year. David Gallardo, Uruguayan fullback, and the big 6'6" Ousmane Dabo have both gone out on loan to the Championship to Cardiff and Southampton respectively. So we'll see how they get on over the next couple of years. And there were a few players put up on the transfer list that I just don't think are going to make it. The likes of Neil Conlon, Alistair Sim, who are youth players that came through and they've just not grown as well as other players. So they've kind of been left in the dust. Another player that was transfer listed was Kiana Hoover. And the reason for that is because I found this man, Denzel Dumfries, available on the free agents list. And he's just a step up on Kiana Hoover. Of course, we've got Renchi, we've got Jaden, Kirkes and Nicholson as well, but I think Dumfries is a decent option who can come in, can play probably on either side with the 3-star weak foot, and also potentially at centre back as well. I'm going to snap him up before anyone else gets in there and make sure we get our man. We are going to make sure we give him the important squad role. We'll give him a 2-year deal as well, and I'm not really too sure how much money he's going to want. 50 grand is roughly what I was thinking, so we'll try and bring that signing on bonus down slightly, but I think it's going to be around 55 to 60,000. And no, he's happy with 50, so Denzel is our first signing and the former Inter Milan is in to cover us at fullback. I really like his stats. Very physical player, quick, strong, very high stamina, and of course used to playing in a 3-back system for Inter Milan and also for his country, the Netherlands, but I think he can do a job for us at fullback when needed, and he's actually probably a better cover option than Jayden Bogle is. So yeah, very happy to welcome Denzel to the club. Just looking at his stats as well, and obviously he could definitely do a job at centre-back. That could be an option that we look at further down the line, but for now we are going to keep him on that right-hand side, and we'll keep him as a backup option for Renchi. And interestingly enough, our first bid of the transfer window is for Jayden Bogle. For now, I'm going to turn that down. But if we do need to raise some funds towards the end of the window, Jayden is someone that could potentially be sold to raise some cash, because now we've got Denzel, we've got enough cover at fullback. But for now, I'm going to keep Jayden here. So a couple of interesting bids here. I've just delegated a loan bid for Stefanos Samaras from Wolfsburg. We've also had a bid for Kylian Hoover from Monza, not against selling him there. So going to look to try and squeeze a bit more money out of the Italian club. And also a big bid from AC Milan, the Serie A champions, for Harry Matthews, but he is going nowhere. Now, I actually had a plan in place regarding Leandro Paredes this year. I was going to sell him and bring in Saul Niguez to replace him. Of course, lots of experience. Saul Niguez played for Atletico Madrid at the top level for a long time. Had that loan spell at Chelsea as well, so has played in the Premier League. And even though Leandro is still going to be here as he is retiring, I don't think he's going to play a huge amount. So I think I'm still going to bring the Spaniard in. Just a 1-year deal, 45 grand a week for Sal, and I'm pretty happy with that signing. He's more sort of backup if we have an injury crisis, but also a good experienced player to have in the early stages of the Champions League and also in the domestic cups as well. And he's still got it. He's pretty well balanced across the board. So Saul Niguez, welcome to Bramall Lane. Loan bid here for Joaquin Pardo from Girona, which I quite like. So we've delegated that. We've got a bid for Zach Steffen from Wolves, which I'm pretty happy with. Going to negotiate with them in a moment. But a huge bid from PSG for Milos Kerkez. Not going to happen, lads, especially not after you knocked us out of the Champions League last year. So we've just negotiated the loan deal for Samaras to head out to Wolfsburg, and he could be joined by his Greek compatriot Yorgos Dimitriou, as we've just delegated a loan bid from Union Berlin to get him out to Germany for a year. Well, here comes the first sale of the window, and it's Zach Steffen, who's been here for, what, 3 years now? 3, maybe 4. I think it's 3 years since we signed him. And he's always been a decent backup for us. But now that Aliou's back from his loan, I'm going to keep him as my cup keeper. Zach Steffen no longer needed, was unhappy at the club. And I quite like the sale, keeping him in England as he heads to Molineux. And our next sale going through here as Kylian Hoover is off to Monza. It's a one and done. And to be fair to Hoover, he did a decent job for us. Signed on a free last summer. Came in, grew by 2 ratings, did a decent job whenever he was called upon, and we've now sold him for a £10 million profit. I cannot complain with that. Thanks for your service. So I've just negotiated the sale of Neil Conlon to Besiktas for 2.5 million, and we've also received a monster bid from Bologna for Cameron Archer. Obviously, I mentioned my sort of dilemma between Cam and João Pedro. I'm not really sure Bologna's the most realistic destination, so I'm going to reject that for now, but I'm really torn as to which one of them's going to leave. So we're just seeing the deal for Stefanos Samaras going through here. He is out to join VfL Wolfsburg, as he'll be spending 2 years in Germany. And another deal going through here as the short king Neil Conlon, just 5'5", is being walked out of the front door. Never really made it. And he was one of the first players that made it out of the academy, but heading off to Besiktas for just 2.5 million. And there goes Yorgos out to Germany as well, as he heads to Union Berlin on just a 1-year loan deal, and he'll be facing off directly with his Greek compatriot Stefanos at Wolfsburg. But Bologna really in the market for a striker, as they've now come in for Reece Matthews, brother of Harry. However, I am going to reject that, as I do want to keep him here as one of our youth academy graduates. Big bid from Spurs for Aliou But again, he is going to be staying here for this upcoming season. Still waiting for a few more of these players to be shifted on. Waiting for that Pardo loan deal to go through. Same with Ian Walker. Potentially heading to Palace. Still no bids for Alistair Sim and a couple of bids for Darko, but I really want to try and keep him in England, so waiting for a more realistic destination. And straight away there is that deal going through for Joaquin Pardo joining Girona for 2 years. Quite like that sale. And Ian Walker as well, heading to Selhurst Park for 2 years. Had a couple of loans abroad and then with Norwich in the Championship, but now hopefully going to be playing some Premier League football under Oliver Glasner. So I've just agreed the sale of Darko to PSV for £4 million. Wanted to try and keep him in England, but not receiving any bids. And of course, the Eredivisie is known for developing young players. So happy to let him head out to the Netherlands. So I'm one of those that always looks to sort of get my house in order before I make any decisions. And I've been waiting to sort of shift our players on and sort out the outgoing players before bringing anyone in. But now with just Darko and Sim left to go, I think I'm going to make my first move. And I want to bring this man, William Saliba, to the club. One of the best centre-backs in FC24. 89 overall at 27 in his prime. It was between him and Gvardiol. And Josko might cost a little bit less. But I think for me, William Saliba is just the ideal partner for Anel. So I'm going to go in with an opening bid of 95 million. I feel like they're going to ask for well over 100. Yeah, 123. Now, they quite often come back with their first initial sort of counter quite high. So I'm going to go back in at 100 million. And no, they're sticking with 123. Wow, Napoli not willing to sell the French centre-back. That's slightly better though. And I think from there we will be able to agree a deal. Going to try and hold firm and go in at 105, knowing that even if they come back and negotiate, we should still be able to get him at that. But 105 million looks as if that will do it for William Saliba. Still 3 years left on his contract, 100 grand a week. Let's get him in. So a 4-year deal on 150 grand a week. And William Saliba is our marquee signing and our biggest signing of the save so far. As I've said, I think he's the perfect partner for Anel at the back. And we had the best defence in the league last year and we've just improved on it once again. We're going to be impenetrable this season. Well, that's taken our budget down to around £45 million. Of course, with wage budget alterations, it's probably around 40. So if we do want to bring in our main target that's left, which is, of course, Eli Wahi of Everton, if we pick him out here in the shortlist. Now, the scout reckons he's going to cost us between sort of 100 and 120 million. So similar price as William Saliba just cost. So we are going to have to make some sales if we want to bring him in. And this might come as a little bit of a sort of controversial shout, but the players that I'm actually looking at as potential players we could shift on. And we've got loads of attacking options, and we know that one of Cameron Archer and João Pedro is probably going to leave. João Pedro is actually unhappy, and Cam's grown a rating now to 85 overall. So looking at the two players, honestly, I think João Pedro is the one I'm looking at as most likely to depart. He's only got a year and 11 months left on his deal, whereas Cam signed a new contract recently. So as we're probably not going to receive any bids naturally, I'm going to put João Pedro on the transfer list. For that money alone, I don't think would quite be enough. So we're probably going to have to look for one more player to sell. And in the attacking midfield position, we've got loads of options. We know that Luka Sucic is our main man. Harry Matthews now up to 85 overall. And we had Ewan Stone and Malik Diaby both return from loan spells this summer window. And both look really decent and like they could fill in if needed. So Carlos Alcaraz, I think, is going to be the full man here. Very, very decent, and his stats are incredible, but he's never really set the world alight for me. Obviously, always behind Luka Sucic, and I think Harry Matthews is probably happier to play that role behind Luka. in the pecking order, up to 85 overall, so a similar story. I think we're going to have to add Carlos Alcaraz to the transfer list to raise some funds. I really want to bring Wahi in. And there goes Darko off to the Eredivisie, joining up with PSV for just £4 million, but he just never really developed the way we hoped he would. And finally, we've had a bid for Alistair Sim. It's come from Vitória in the Portuguese league, and he'd actually be joining up with Tom Powell, who's out there on loan at the moment. So £4.5 million, and it looks as if Alistair will be heading to Portugal. And there goes Alistair Sim departing to Vitória. So that is the last of the players that were transfer listed. Obviously, there are still a few that I've mentioned that could potentially go. So I think we are going to have to raise some funds. So don't expect that to be our final sale of the window. Well, as Liverpool put in a huge bid for Ibrahim Sangare, but he is one of the players that is not going anywhere. Maybe 30 years of age now, but he's such a rock at the heart of that midfield. And Vitória are after all of my players here, coming in for Patrick Nicholson, but he's a player that is going nowhere. 3 big bids for Aliou Sonko here, and we keep getting them through, so I'm actually just going to block offers for our Cameroonian. Don't want to sell him this summer, so we're going to block those transfer offers from coming in. We have received some bids here, interest already for the players we've transfer listed. Aston Villa coming in for João Pedro, and I actually quite like the sale of João Pedro to Aston Villa. They're sort of consistently a European team, and with him having been in the Premier League for a while now, I quite like that sale. So we're going to remove the exchange player, and we'll see if we can strike up a deal. And Unai Emery straight away says yes to 50 million for João Pedro. That's a pretty decent sale for the Brazilian, with just that 1 year left on his contract at the end of this summer. And also a couple of bids from Chelsea and Spurs for Carlos Alcaraz. I might stall on them for now. So we made it to the Community Shield. Obviously, we won this last season against Manchester City. João Pedro still here for now, and we're still waiting for that deal to go through. I'd probably rather keep Carlos Alcaraz here if I can get away with it. But to be honest, I don't think the money from the sale of João Pedro is going to be enough for Wahi. And whilst I could sell one of Stone or Diaby, it doesn't really make sense to have Carlos, Sucic, Matthews and these two who can all play in that attacking midfield role. But anyway, we're going to crack on with the Community Shield here. Manchester City once again, as they finished runners-up in the Premier League after we won at the domestic double. A glorified friendly if you lose it, but silverware if you are to win it. Let's see if we can get the best of Manchester City once again. So I've rotated the team pretty heavily for this game, as I'm not really too fussed if we lose it. But due to the nature of our... Oh, that's brilliant. What a goal by Rodrigo. Due to the nature of our squad, our lineup's still pretty decent, even with us resting quite a few of our main starters. But Rodrigo taking absolutely no prisoners here and scoring an absolute cracker at the start of the game. Oh, that's a really clever little ball. So is that. Oh, I don't believe that's gone in. How has that found its way in? Man City lead by 2. And now we've got a mountain to climb. Oh, City have been so good today. We have not been able to lay a glove on them. Moretti. Oh, it's going to be 3. It's 3-0 Man City. And that's game over. We have been absolutely torn apart by Haaland and co today. Yeah, Man City are winning this Community Shield, I'll tell you that for nothing. We're not getting back into this now. As Jefferson hits the post, well, maybe that might have given us a glimmer, but just not been our day today, and City have been miles the better team. Ewan, Stone, off the bench, back to Jefferson, and Nilos pulls one back. Well, a consolation, that's all it's going to be, but at least we get on the score sheet. Nilos Kaya scores our first goal of the season, but it will be Man City lifting the Community Shield. Oh wow, the ref just sent Haaland off out of absolutely nothing. as never a red card. The ref's completely lost his marbles there. Maybe a yellow at best, but never a red. And I'm not sure if that classes as a domestic ban, but Erling Haaland could miss the opening Premier League game through suspension, and that's absolutely mad from the referee. But Manchester City victors today, and as I said beforehand, a glorified friendly if you lose it and a trophy if you win it. Well, Man City can have their Community Shield, and we're going to start the season off with a loss, which is not really what we wanted, but it is realistically just another friendly in the calendar. And our work starts in a week's time when we kick off our Premier League campaign, looking to retain our title. Well, guys, that is where we will leave it for today. Manchester City absolutely blew us out of the water in that opening 45 minutes. But we will be back in the next episode to kick off our Premier League campaign with our first game. A tough trip away to Manchester City's rivals United at Old Trafford. And we will also play out the rest of the transfer window, where we still are in the hunt of our main transfer target, Eli Wahi from Everton. I hope you have enjoyed, guys. I'll catch you in the next episode very soon, and peace.